Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bookcast. You know, it's funny, we were talking before the show, and well, it's something I think a lot of people experience, like you're on this financial treadmill, working hard, saving, trying to invest, but that dream of financial freedom, it just feels so far off.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's a pretty common feeling. That whole traditional path to wealth can feel like a slog, right? Not exactly a high-speed race to the finish line.
It can be super disheartening. But what if I told you there's a different way? A faster way to reach financial independence? Today, we are diving into the Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. And
oh, yeah, I love this one.
Yeah.
He basically argues that there's a way to build real wealth a lot faster than a lot of the conventional advice out there.
I like the sound of that.
Right.
So how does he suggest we, ditch the slow lane and get into the fast lane?
Well, he starts by breaking things down into these 3 wealth formulas, and it's really insightful how he frames it. Like, just figuring out which path you're on right now can be a huge wake-up call.
Ooh. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's break down these formulas. What's the first one, and where do you think most of us fall?
Well, the first formula he calls is insatiable consumption. Basically, it's when you're spending more than you earn.
Okay.
Leads to debt, obviously, financial struggle. You're on that treadmill we were talking about, right? Running hard, but going nowhere fast.
Oof, yeah, I've been there. Definitely been there. So, if overspending is that first trap, what's the second formula?
He calls that one hopeful accumulation. It's like the classic approach, right? Work hard, save diligently, invest conservatively.
Yeah.
The path most financial advisors tell you to follow. The goal there is a comfortable retirement eventually.
Okay, but it sounds pretty responsible though, right? Like, what's wrong with that?
Well, DeMarco argues that it's just too limited. You're trading time, which is your most valuable asset, for a fixed income. Right. And traditional investments, while they're generally safe, the returns can be pretty slow. Steady, but slow. So yeah, it's the safe route, but it might not get you to, like, early retirement or real financial freedom. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
You're basically at the mercy of the market and your employer.
Yeah, see his point. Okay, so insatiable spending keeps you stuck, and slow accumulation keeps you waiting. So what's the alternative? This is where the fast lane comes in, right?
You got it. DeMarco's preferred approach is active production. This is like the core of his whole philosophy.
Go ahead.
Shifting your mindset from being a consumer to being a producer.
So instead of working for money, you're creating something that generates wealth.
Exactly. You're investing your time in building assets and systems that generate passive income. So things like royalties from books, rental income from properties, or even, profits from an online business that kind of runs on autopilot.
Wait, hold on. Passive income. That sounds amazing. But can you break that down a little? I think some of our listeners might be wondering, like, how that actually works.
Yeah, for sure. Imagine this. You've got multiple streams of income flowing in, even while you're sleeping, you're traveling, whatever, pursuing other passions.
Yeah.
It's about building something once and reaping the rewards for years to come.
Okay, now I'm really interested.
One of the biggest things he talks about is becoming an expert in something you're passionate about, and then using that knowledge to create a business that either solves a problem or fills a need.
So does that mean like going back to school, getting another degree, racking up more student loan debt?
No, not at all. DeMarco actually challenges that whole idea that expensive education is the only path to success. Instead, he's a big advocate for just being resourceful, learning by doing, and, taking advantage of all the free information out there. Think online courses, mentorship programs, heck, even just diving deep into books and articles.
Okay, so step 1 is to learn and hone your skills. What about step 2?
Step 2 is all about shifting your perspective. Like, start seeing the world through the eyes of a producer. Pay attention to the businesses you interact with every single day. Analyze their models. Try to understand their strengths and weaknesses. Like, ask yourself, where can I add value? Can I improve on an existing product or service? Can I solve a problem that no one else is really addressing?
I love that. It's like a challenge to be more observant, to think more analytically.
Totally.
Almost like a treasure hunt for opportunities.
Exactly. He also encourages what he calls choosing complexity over simplicity.
Okay.
It might sound a little counterintuitive, but businesses that are harder to launch, they usually have less competition.
Ooh.
Think about it. If something is super easy to start, everyone's doing it, which drives down the profits. But if it's complex, if it requires some specialized knowledge, you're way more likely to stand out.
Yeah, it's like they say, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
You put in the effort up front, and then you get those rewards later on down the line.
Exactly. And finally, DeMarco's a big advocate for, controlling your own destiny as much as possible. What that means is minimizing your reliance on other companies or platforms. So instead of building your business on someone else's foundation, consider creating something that you have full ownership over.
I bet that resonates with a lot of our listeners. You know, a lot of people are drawn to that idea of being their own boss, having that autonomy.
For sure. But maybe his most important tip, and this is really at the heart of his whole philosophy, is to offer genuine value. He truly believes that wealth is a direct reflection of the positive impact you have on the world.
Yeah.
So whether you're creating a product or service or even entertainment, you always want to be asking yourself, how am I making people's lives better, easier, or more enjoyable?
Such a good point. It's not just about making money for yourself. It's about contributing something positive to the world.
Right.
And that's something we can all get behind.
Totally. And finally, DeMarco talks about the importance of investing your profits wisely. This is where the whole compound interest thing really shines. Yeah.
He argues that, the profits from a successful Fastlane business, those big chunks of money, those can be used to fuel even more wealth creation down the line.
So it's like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
The more passive income you generate, the more you can invest, the faster your wealth grows.
Exactly.
Before we jump into those investment strategies, I'm curious about something. DeMarco seems pretty critical of these shortcuts to wealth. What are some of these so-called shortcuts, and why does he reject them?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You'd think that someone who's all about building wealth fast would be all for shortcuts. But DeMarco's view is it's a little more nuanced.
Okay.
One of the biggest illusions he tackles is what he calls the wealth illusion. It's this idea that people use credit cards and debt to buy things that they can't actually afford just to appear wealthy. Oh, it's like keeping up with the Joneses but gone wrong. So you end up trapped in this cycle of payments instead of actually building real assets.
Yeah.
You look rich, but your bank account tells a different story.
Exactly. And that kind of debt, it actually pulls you further away from true financial security. Another shortcut that he kind of pushes back on is the idea that a pricey education guarantees success. While, yeah, education's important, DeMarco argues that it can also lead to, mountains of student loan debt, and it can limit your career options if you're only focused on the jobs that a certain degree might get you.
This is such a relevant point for so many people, especially those who are, considering taking on more debt for another degree. Does DeMarco offer any alternatives to that, like traditional education route?
He does. He's a huge advocate for this entrepreneurial mindset. He believes in gaining practical skills, learning by doing, and, building a business based on your own knowledge and expertise rather than, relying on a degree to open doors for you.
So it's about creating your own opportunities, becoming a producer instead of just waiting for permission to participate. It's a very self-driven approach.
For sure. And this connects to another big point DeMarco makes, which is that time is your most valuable resource.
Okay.
Trading time for an hourly wage or a fixed salary, that puts a hard limit on your earning potential. There are only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, you can only work 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
I've definitely felt that. It's like you hit a ceiling, on how much you can earn when you're trading your time for money directly.
Yeah.
Passive income seems to break that barrier, though.
Exactly. The beauty of those assets that generate passive income is they work for you around the clock. You're no longer limited by how many hours you can work, right? It's about building those systems that generate wealth even while you sleep. DeMarco really emphasizes that potential for passive income is virtually limitless while, your time, it's finite, it's precious.
Makes so much sense. It's like switching from that scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
There's only so much of you to go around, but the potential for wealth creation, that can keep growing.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift in perspective. And finally, DeMarco cautions against relying too heavily on things you can't control for your financial well-being.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Think about, the economy.
Right.
The ups and downs. Or the stock market, even, your own health. These are all these external factors that can have a big impact on your ability to earn. Even if you're doing all the right things, like saving and investing diligently.
Yeah, so even if you're following all the traditional financial advice, you're still vulnerable to all these forces that are outside your control.
Right.
So what does DeMarco suggest we do instead?
Well, he believes in creating your own opportunities, building systems that generate value, regardless of what's happening in the outside world. So you're not at the mercy of someone else's decisions or the unpredictable nature of the market. You're taking control, building something that you can rely on.
So it's about becoming more resilient, more adaptable, and less reliant on all these factors that you can't actually influence. I can definitely see the appeal in that, especially these days when things feel so, uncertain.
For sure. And DeMarco's very clear that building these systems does take work, but the rewards are pretty significant. You can achieve financial freedom a lot faster than sticking to that traditional slow lane. Plus, you gain more control over your time, your choices, and, your overall quality of life.
Okay, so we've talked about like the wealth illusion and some of the shortcuts that DeMarco says to avoid. But I think some people listening might be thinking, okay, passive income sounds great and all, but is it really attainable for just the average person? Like, do you need to be some business genius or have tons of money to even get started? What would you say to people who are feeling a bit skeptical?
That's a great question, and it's one that DeMarco actually addresses directly in the book. He believes that financial freedom through the fast lane, it's achievable for anyone, no matter your background, education, or current financial situation. It's not about luck or privilege, it's about mindset. It's about strategy and taking consistent action.
So it's more about adopting a different approach, a different way of thinking about wealth creation, rather than needing, some special advantage or talent.
Exactly. He provides a roadmap, a set of principles and strategies that really anyone can apply.
Right.
Of course, there will be challenges along the way. But DeMarco argues that the biggest obstacle is often our own, limiting beliefs.
What do you mean? What kind of limiting beliefs?
Well, a lot of people, they're kind of conditioned to believe that wealth is only for a select few, or that they're not smart enough, talented enough, or resourceful enough to actually build a successful business. They might have had, negative experiences in the past that have made them kind of hesitant to take risks or put themselves out there. And DeMarco argues that those beliefs are just self-imposed limitations that are holding us back from achieving our true potential.
It's like those inner voices, whispering, you can't do this, or this is too risky. So how do you overcome those voices and start believing that you can actually succeed?
It's all about kind of challenging those negative thoughts and replacing them with more empowering beliefs. Surround yourself with people who are positive and supportive, who believe in your dreams. Find mentors, find communities that can provide guidance and encouragement.
So it's about changing that inner dialogue, that internal script from I can't to I can, and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and inspire you. I love that. But even if you overcome those inner barriers, what about the practical stuff? What if you have no idea where to even start, what kind of business to create, or you're terrified of failing? Those are real fears.
Totally. Those are real fears, and DeMarco gets that. He doesn't shy away from that practical side of things at all. He really emphasizes the importance of figuring out, what are your passions, your skills, and your interests as a starting point. Your business should be something you genuinely enjoy, something that lights you up.
Yeah.
It also needs to be something that you're good at because, that passion and that expertise, that's going to fuel your motivation, especially when things get tough, and they will.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, right? Where your natural talents and interests, they intersect with a genuine need in the marketplace. That way you're doing what you love and you're providing value at the same time.
Exactly. And when it comes to the fear of failing, DeMarco offers a really interesting perspective. He sees failure not as the end, but as a necessary part of the learning process.
That's huge. So many people are paralyzed by this fear of making mistakes, of not getting it right on the first try.
Yeah.
How does DeMarco reframe that fear?
Well, he believes that setbacks and mistakes, they're inevitable, but they're actually valuable learning opportunities. Every failure teaches you something. It helps you refine your approach, and it makes you more resilient in the long run.
It's about embracing those challenges, learning from them, and using them as stepping stones rather than letting them hold you back.
Totally.
I think that's such a powerful message, and it applies to so much more than just building a business.
I agree. DeMarco's a big advocate for this idea of growth mindset, where you view failure as feedback, and you're constantly iterating and improving your approach as you go.
So it's about being willing to experiment, to get out of your comfort zone, and just keep learning and growing even when things are tough.
Yes, that's where the real magic happens. And that brings us to the core of DeMarco's framework, the practical steps to creating that fast lane business and generating the passive income we've been talking about.
Perfect. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From those wealth formulas, DeMarco's take on shortcuts, to the importance of mindset and all those limiting beliefs. But now I'm ready to get into the nitty-gritty. How do we actually create a fast lane business and start generating that passive income? Where do we even start?
I know, right? Time for action. That's what DeMarco's all about. He's big on taking action, and, he emphasizes that knowledge is really only powerful when you actually use it. He gives this really clear framework for building a fast lane business, and it all starts with becoming an expert and just taking action. Remember, we talked about honing your skills and seeing the world through the eyes of a producer.
Right. Identifying those opportunities where you can create value.
Yeah.
But with so many different possibilities out there, how do you actually choose a business idea? I mean, there's got to be more to it than just picking something you like, right?
Totally. DeMarco suggests you start by looking at the knowledge and skills you already have. So ask yourself, what problems can I solve using what I already know? Or how can I improve products or services that already exist? These questions can help you find opportunities that really align with your strengths, your passions.
So it's not about coming up with some groundbreaking invention, but more about taking what you're good at and finding a way to apply it to a need in the market. Kind of like finding a new way to use an old tool.
Exactly. You're leveraging your existing knowledge to create something new and valuable. You might be surprised at what opportunities are already right there in front of you, just waiting for you to connect the dots.
That's pretty encouraging. But what about, what if you're stuck in a 9-to-5 job and don't have a ton of time to dedicate to building a side hustle? How do you even make that shift from employee to entrepreneur? It can feel pretty overwhelming.
Oh yeah, for sure. It can be super overwhelming. DeMarco acknowledges that balancing a job and starting a business, it's no joke. But he doesn't think you have to quit your job right away and just jump into the unknown. It's about strategic steps.
So more about building momentum over time instead of making a drastic leap.
Exactly. Start small. Work on it in your free time, evenings, weekends. And as your income grows, you can gradually scale up. Find that balance that works for you and keep moving forward, even if it's just little by little.
Like building a muscle, right?
Yeah.
Start slow, get stronger, then increase the challenge. You wouldn't try to bench press a car right away.
Exactly. It takes time. It's a process. DeMarco also talks about how important it is to stay focused, stay disciplined, even when the progress is slow.
Which can be tough, I bet, especially in those early days. You're putting in the work, but maybe not seeing big results yet, especially when you're juggling other responsibilities. How do you stay motivated? What helps you keep going when things get tough?
It's important to celebrate those small wins along the way and, keep that long-term vision in mind. Remember why you even started in the first place. What are you working towards? What does that financial freedom actually look like for you? Keep that picture in your head and use it to keep you moving.
It's like when you go on a road trip, you have that destination in mind. Right?
Yeah.
You might hit some detours, maybe some delays, but as long as you keep your eyes on the prize, you'll get there eventually.
100%. And remember those principles we talked about. Choosing complexity over simplicity, controlling your destiny. DeMarco says that businesses that are tougher to start usually face less competition, which can lead to higher profits.
Right. Finding that niche where you offer something unique, something that sets you apart. But what about control? Why is that such a big deal for DeMarco?
Well, he really encourages people to build businesses where they have full ownership, from creating the product to getting it out to customers. So your success doesn't rely on some other company's platform or decisions. Imagine putting your heart and soul into something only to see it fall apart because, say, the website you built it on suddenly changes its rules or shuts down.
Yeah, it's like building a house on rented land versus owning the property outright.
Yeah.
Owning your own platform gives you so much more freedom and stability. But isn't starting from scratch way harder?
It can be. And that's where choosing complexity comes in. If you choose a business that needs specific knowledge, skills, or resources, you're probably going to have fewer competitors. So it's a trade-off. More effort up front, but potentially bigger rewards later on.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you've figured out your niche, you're building your own platform, and you're starting to bring in some cash. What's the next step? How do you manage that money and make sure it grows? What does DeMarco have to say about that?
This is where compound interest comes in. DeMarco is a huge believer in investing your profits in a smart way. Make that money work for you.
So it's not just about earning, but also about making sure that money grows and multiplies over time.
You got it. He suggests taking your profits and putting them back into the business to help it grow even more. Also, think about exploring other investment opportunities that fit your goals and how much risk you're comfortable with.
It's all about creating that cycle, right? Where your money is constantly generating more money. That's the power of compound interest.
Exactly. And the bigger the amounts of money you make from your fast lane business, the faster that compound interest kicks in. Imagine a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and bigger as it goes. That's what you want your money to do.
I love that visual. So it's not just about building a business. It's about building a system for creating wealth that keeps on giving. And that's really what DeMarco's framework offers, right? That blueprint for building a life with financial freedom and abundance.
That's a fantastic way to put it. It's about taking control, right? Control of your finances, your time, and ultimately your life. It's not some get-rich-quick scheme, but it's a powerful and practical way to build wealth on your own terms.
Couldn't agree more. The Millionaire Fastlane makes you rethink how you look at money, how you look at work, and what's really possible. It's about being the architect of your own future instead of just passively accepting the limitations of, like, the slow lane.
Absolutely. And it reminds you that we all have the potential to do amazing things when we combine the right mindset, the right strategies, and consistent action. Even if you don't follow every single thing DeMarco says, there are tons of lessons here that can help you live a more fulfilling and abundant life.
What really stood out to me was the idea of shifting from being a consumer to a producer. And such a small shift in thinking, but it's so powerful. Instead of always buying things, you start to use your skills to create things, build things, solve problems. That's where true wealth comes from, both financially and personally.
Couldn't agree more. It's about being in charge of your own success story instead of being stuck in that slow lane. It's about owning your journey and creating the future you want.
So, to all our listeners, what do you think? Have you read The Millionaire Fastlane? What did you take away from it? What are your goals, your dreams? Share with us in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bookcast for more deep dives into books that can change your life.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the Millionaire Fastlane. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep chasing those dreams.